Hey guys, and welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield and I'm a homeschooling mama to a first grader and a third grader. And today's video is going to be our February 2026 homeschool update. Now, we have made a lot of changes since the beginning of this calendar year, since the beginning of 2026. And I am ready to talk about some of those changes we made in January, as well as we made some big ones in February. One that you can probably obviously already tell is my backdrop has changed in my office. We actually went ahead and got some new furniture. This is a piece I had been eyeing from IKEA for a really long time. I'd been researching and trying to find a really good bookcase for the space because with us homeschooling, we buy a lot of books, y'all. We have a lot of books. And I was kind of piecemealing it, trying to bring in more cheaper bookcases here and there, small ones all over the house. And I was like, I cannot do this. I need my stuff all in one space. And I've been saving and saving and saving. And finally, we went ahead and pulled the trigger and I got this piece from IKEA. It's the Hemnes, I think is what it's called. I'm going to put it right here if you want to go look at it. I'll link it down below for you guys, actually. That's probably easier to just go click on the link. But it's technically 3 different bookcases in one, but I am so happy with how it turned out. It doesn't feel like it's overly crammed. We still have a ton of space that we can grow into and put books on. So as our homeschool progresses, we will continue to fill this beautiful piece with tons of books. I just love having everything all in one place rather than running around the entire house trying to find all my books, y'all. So that's been one big major change. Another major change that we implemented this month also includes a furniture purchase, because we actually moved our homeschool back up into our loft area. If you've been following me for at least over a year, you will have remembered that originally we had a homeschool room up in our upstairs loft space. It's kind of a hybrid space. It's toys plus homeschooling, but we've pared down the toys a lot, and there's this little corner that's like the play section, and then the rest is the homeschool room. But about a year ago, around this time last year, we had gotten sick and we decided to do schooling on the couch and at the kitchen table. And we enjoyed it so much that once we were no longer sick anymore last year, we decided to keep everything downstairs. I moved a bookcase downstairs into our living room. We basically moved the homeschool room into our dining area. However, our dining space is really tiny and I was starting to get super claustrophobic homeschooling in that space. On top of it, I didn't particularly love that the homeschool would kind of flow into the main living space, the chaos, the clutter, everything, our projects. It was like I couldn't compartmentalize homeschool once homeschool was over and then move on to, with my day starting to clean, cook, things like that without it just being all over my main living area. I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially it was causing a lot of anxiety for me. And so although it was a really good move initially for us over the last year, the last couple months, it has slowly become very clear to me that I think we do better if we have our homeschool space up in the loft area, or I do better if it's up there. But also the girls were really excited about it. They're like, we miss this space. It's so cozy up here. So we are really loving the new homeschool space. I had designed it differently than the first time we were up there. So I'll probably be doing a new homeschool room tour. If you guys want to check that out, leave those down in the comments. Say, yes, please film that, because I will go ahead and get that going here soon for you guys if that's what you want. But along with that, I decided to pull the trigger as well. When I was purchasing this, I was like, we need a table and chairs up there, because what we were originally using was a folding table and the chairs from the desks in my girls' rooms. And it was doing fine. It was fine. But I was like, this is going to be a permanent place. We need a table and chairs up here. So I went ahead and got this beautiful natural wood looking table and chair set. It's the perfect size for us. Also, I like that the top is wipeable. I have already had to remove paint and crayons from the top and it wipes right off, thankfully. The whole table, I think, is wood, but the top part, they have like this, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not fully wood. It's like a layer of vinyl almost. I don't know what I want to call it, but if you go click on the link down below, you'll see when you click into it what it is made of. You can go to the materials, but it makes it wipeable and it doesn't stain when the girls paint on it. However, we try to minimize getting any of that stuff on there. But those have been two major changes, the bookcase and the move upstairs into the homeschool space. So beyond those big changes that we have implemented, I wanted to get into updates on our curriculum, what we have been doing this past month, talk to you about a big change we made back in January, but I wasn't quite ready to talk to you about it with our language arts during our January update video. I wanted to give it a little bit longer before I decided to speak about it because it is still going well, so I'm ready to chat about it. Okay, so let's start this off by talking about my youngest, my first grader, Charlotte, and how her individual subjects have been going. So first off, starting with math. So we have had a really good run with Math with Confidence with both my girls. Just a little backstory on us. We have used Kate Snow's products since my youngest was in pre-K. We actually used her preschool math at home. Then we used kindergarten level, first grade. We're in second grade right now with my youngest. My oldest is doing third grade, so we have used all the levels from preschool up to third grade so far, and it's a beautiful program. It really develops a really strong number sense in your children. It's very conceptual, and it really, in my opinion, is a great foundational early elementary, and hopefully it'll continue to go well into elementary math program. But with that being said, my youngest is very advanced for her grade, but also her age. She is on the much younger end of her school. If she had been born 3 days later, she could have been a kindergartner. I say this all the time, but it's important that I lay this foundation for you guys. So she started to kind of push back and not want to do Math with Confidence right after winter break. And she did something similar the same time last year. And I recognize it as mostly she's really strong in math, but her maturity level is still, she's much younger, right, than the math that she is doing. So what I did last year was I was like, let's take a break. We're going to take a break from Math with Confidence, but I still want you to do some kind of math. So last year what I did was I printed off some of the free The Good and the Beautiful lessons for her from grade 1, and she was working through those. And then after a little while, she was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to doing Math with Confidence. And we did, and it was great. So this year I was like, oh, same thing's happening. No worries, we're gonna pause Math with Confidence. You're way ahead in second grade math. Let's just print off some of the second grade lessons from The Good and the Beautiful. This time was a little different. I realized that this change actually might be more than just her maturity level. And at a certain point, she truly said, Mom, I don't wanna go back to Math with Confidence. I like The Good and the Beautiful math more. And I said, okay, well, I need you to sit down with me because I really like Math with Confidence, and I think it's a strong program, and I think it gives you a really solid leg up in math when you're first starting out. You know, I need you to sit down. Let's look at these programs side by side. Explain to me what it is that you're liking better about this one that Math with Confidence doesn't do. And I think ultimately what I have discovered, because I'm still learning her learning style, she's only in first grade. It took me until about second grade to really understand my oldest daughter's learning style. So I'm still, you know, in those weeds trying to figure it out with her. My youngest is a visual learner. Math with Confidence, at least up through the second grade level, is very much verbal and hands-on manipulatives. Your child does not see a worksheet or any kind of paper on the table with the lesson for Math with Confidence until you're done with the lesson and they're doing a lesson practice sheet, and then it flips over to do review for any of math that they learned up to that point. So for her, me speaking to her about the lesson, doing the hands-on manipulatives, that was very frustrating for her. And that's why she was really starting to kind of rebel against it, because auditorily, and this is interesting because I'm the exact same way. I'm a visual learner. I can't process things auditorily as well as I can visually. I have a photographic memory. So I wonder if she has the same thing as me. And so I can see why Math with Confidence would be really frustrating to her, because then I was like, okay, well, it has a worksheet. And she goes, yeah, but then she was like, My dog just groaned. My dogs are napping down here. But so the thing is, when you look at the worksheet, I was like, okay, well, tell me why you like The Good and the Beautiful, the way the page is laid out, better than Math with Confidence. And essentially what it is she just likes it better that she can see the entire lesson. On top of that, I will say, I think The Good and the Beautiful is about a half grade ahead, and it's more abstract. And I think she likes that. I think it suits her better. On top of that, it is spiral. Math with Confidence is mastery with daily review. And so for her, when we were like working on a concept in math, and it was just kind of beating a dead horse for her, she's like, Mom, I know, can we move on? Whereas The Good and the Beautiful is doing a spiral approach. So we're touching different topics, one after the other, one after the other, and it's keeping it interesting for her. She has a harder time, sitting still for things and stuff. So I think keeping her on her toes, not seeing the same thing and doing the same thing lesson over lesson all the time is really helpful to her. So I made a deal with her. I said, okay, I'm willing to give this a shot. We will continue with The Good and the Beautiful math. I started her back over at the beginning of second grade because I didn't want her to skip anything. We're already way ahead. She's still going to be ahead even without starting at the beginning of second grade. And she's blowing through the lessons. She is loving them. Now, we're still only about 25 lessons in, I think, at this point. I think that's where we're about. So we're still in the honeymoon period. I'll call it that. But right now, it is going extremely well. The only thing I told her, I was like, I don't want to lose that hands-on conceptual part of math. So I said, here's the deal. If we are going to keep doing The Good and the Beautiful math, I told her that as warm-ups, we need to then do the Facts That Stick series. So we already owned Edition Facts That Stick. We just finished doing these with her. She's got her addition facts down. So we kind of I touched upon these, but because these went so well, I was like, okay, let's bring in subtraction facts that stick now. So we are going to be doing the games in here as a warm-up before her lesson for here, okay? And I feel like that way she's still holding that conceptual piece by working through this alongside it. Then they do introduce multiplication in here. Once we get to there, we can probably start working on the multiplication facts that stick. I will say, I am still holding on to Math with Confidence too. I'm not getting rid of it. Just in case as a backup plan, right? We want to go back to it, totally fine. She made it a third of the way through the book. So I would just pick her back up wherever we left off in here, if that does happen. However, she really does like The Good and the Beautiful math. It works for her brain. Visually, she loves it. And so I'm not going to knock it. I mean, if it's going well for her, that's fine. And also, if my suspicion is correct that she likes the spiral aspect of it, going back to this might not be an option if The Good and Beautiful doesn't work for us. We might have to look at something maybe like Saxon with Nicole the Math Lady, or I'm not even sure if there's any other spiral programs out there, but if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. But as of right now, The Good and the Beautiful Math 2 is working really well for her, and we're just gonna keep on keeping on with it. All right, moving on to language arts for my first grader. So we have been doing The Good and the Beautiful level 1 handwriting, and we're just coming to the end of this, and I started to recognize, and this is kind of my fault, that she doesn't know how to form a lot of her letters correctly. Part of that is because I made it an independent activity with her. This is again where this is my fault. And I wouldn't sit with her and make sure she was doing the pages in here correctly. I wasn't sitting with her watching her form her stuff and correcting if she wasn't and things like that. So I recognize that's my bad. I think the handwriting from The Good and the Beautiful is perfectly fine. I just thought, hey, let's try and make some things more independent because that'll help our schedule. Wrong move, Mary. Oh my goodness. So I recognized, I was like, we need to kind of go back to the basics. And with my oldest daughter, when she was in first grade, we used Handwriting Without Tears, my printing book, and she has beautiful penmanship, but I also sat with her for each of those lessons, and I watched her and I corrected her and etc. So I told Charlie, I was like, hey, we call her Charlie. Her name's Charlotte, but we call her Charlie. We need to go back and continue to refine your printing, because she really wanted to move on to cursive, but I was like, I think we need to really solidify your printing, but I'm going to get you a different handwriting program, because I didn't want to put her back through the same one. She would have hated that. And also my printing book was a tried and true program for us with my oldest daughter. So I was like, we're going to get you this guy. And she loves it, y'all. She got so excited when she got this in the mail. I was like, why are we so excited? It's just a handwriting program. But she loves it now. And so she gets excited about doing handwriting. We do it together. It's not a independent activity anymore. So we are gonna run through this. It is a program that starts you with each letter. This is meant to be started in first grade. So we are kind of taking her back to basics. That's fine. But I think the way that she is working through this, we will definitely finish it before the end of the year. And if she still needs more help with her printing, I'm going to bring her into the second grade level of this, which is, I think it's called Printing Power. It's like a teal cover on it. But this is going really well. So I'm excited that we've made this addition to our language arts lineup. All right, y'all, on to the big change that we implemented right after winter break. And just a heads up, this was actually for both my girls, but I'll talk about them individually. So, language arts. We are no longer doing Blossom and Root. We tried that out for about a month before Christmas break, and it went well. Charlie was really enjoying the book selections, things like that. But I decided that I want to take a different approach with language arts. Part of that is because of late, I've recognized that I was letting the pedagogy of Charlotte Mason really drive the train in my homeschool, and I felt like I had to really stay within the confines of Charlotte Mason, or else I would be failing my children, which is like totally like ridiculous thought process. And so for me, anything that was even considered like more traditional school or workbooky, I kept ignoring. But I will tell you right now, my weakest subject in school, I was a math and science girl. I loved history. I could remember everything about the historical stories I was learning like that. I was really good at history. I liked reading for English, but I hated the mechanics of language arts and English. So for me, my weakest subject was language arts in school. I did just fine, but it was through sheer willpower, not because I naturally was inclined towards writing and grammar and things like that. It's because I had to work my butt off to be okay in it, but it still was my hardest subject for me. So for me, it is the one I feel the most insecure about with my girls in teaching them. And I want to make sure I have the proper support and the proper resources for them, etc. Now, this is where Blossom and Root, I think, is a beautiful program. It's so well written. I think it's got great book selections. It's got so many fun, hands-on activities and things like that. But it is a more Waldorf and Charlotte Mason inspired approach. And I'm recognizing that I think I want to take a more all-in-one, more traditional approach to language arts. So this is a big change for us. So with that, I decided that I wanted to change gears for language arts for the second half of this year. And if you guys have been following me, you know that last year, my oldest did the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts Level 2, and my youngest did the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts Level K. And that went so well with my youngest. We've been continuing with their phonics booster cards and their readers and things like that. That's how she learned to read. My youngest literally would not be able to read right now if it weren't for the Good and the Beautiful. So with that being said, we have made the big change of implementing the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts from level 1 for my youngest daughter. She is absolutely loving it. She is doing so well. She's already completed Unit 1, so she is now moving on to Unit 2. Alongside this, we are also doing the booster cards, which we were already doing. So she is in booster card books C, and then she's doing Molly and the Falcon as her second reader. I will make one update on this. We have actually paused this because we have finally hit a point where it is a little challenging for her, like a little too challenging. And so I was like, let's pause this because this is meant to be done with the second grade level. We are in the first grade level. So I was like, let's slow that down and let's just work on doing some readers. So when the lesson tells you to do 10 minutes of the booster cards, instead what we're doing is continuing to work our way through the grade 2 Book Shark readers that I got. So right now we are working our way through Nate the Great. She really likes this. So we read this for 5 to 10 minutes and then we move into our lesson. So this is obviously covering phonics, reading, spelling, writing, literature, grammar and punctuation. There's art appreciation in here, poetry memorization. She did great on her Unit 1 review. She passed it with flying colors. Her reading assessment was great. So literally no bad things to say about this. I love also that they do bring a art aspect into this. So they work with different mediums. She's done watercoloring in here. She's done crayons, color pencils, like all different things. This is just working so well. And it makes me feel like I have all the boxes checked and that she is being supported as she needs to. So huge change, but a really, really good change. And we will be continuing with this for the rest of the school year, of course, until we finish. And we're doing it 5 days a week, which they recommend 3 to 4, but I would like to try and get it done before the end of the year if we can, so we can move into level 2 if possible, but by next school year. But if not, I'm not worried about it. We can roll into next year doing this. But I really like the fact that it's also reinforcing phonics from booster card B that she's already learned. And it's kind of like, oh, well, she learned it in here, but then it's now going back over it in here. So it's kind of nice that it's really helping reinforce that knowledge of reading, and her fluency is getting faster because of it, in my opinion. So this has been a good change. Now, one thing we kept from Blossom and Root is level 1 has a geography component that comes in, I think, at week 26, if I'm not mistaken. And then you do for the rest of the school year. So what I did, and they print off the geography pages separately. And so what I did is somebody in the Facebook group on Blossom and Roots Facebook group actually uploaded this cover, and you can print it off to make a separate geography notebook if you don't want to keep it in the kids language arts notebook. And so I did that. And so we just do this on Fridays. We're doing 1 lesson a week, and that'll get us through to the end of the school year. I think it's a really solid geography introduction to how maps are read, geographical terrain things, the continents, the oceans, like all of that goodness is in here. So we are continuing that from the Blossom and Root. And then one more thing for my youngest daughter is her oldest sister is actually doing a kid's journal from Clever Fox. And it's a way for her to kind of do a little creative writing, but it's also about feelings. And so she was like, I really want to journal my own. And I was like, okay. And I did talk about this in my recent haul, so you'll know what this is if you saw that video, but it's called Happy Confident Me Daily Journal. I got it off Amazon. It's so cute. So she puts her name in here. The first couple pages are all about what is this about, how the pages are laid out. This is her little bee friend that helps her throughout the notebook. You can go online and actually take a quiz about, how in tune you are with your feelings. And then hopefully by the end of this, your score will improve. You'll go back to the website and take it. But here's a general layout. You put the day of the week up here, you circle or write in what emotion you're feeling that day, 3 things that you're, I think, excited about, or good things that happen. There's always a quote, a really inspirational quote from somebody famous, something I was proud of today, and then one thing I like about me, and then there's this space to draw. So I thought this was more appropriate for her because it's a little bit more geared towards a younger student, whereas my oldest student, her journal is a little bit more writing focused. This has drawing in it and stuff, so I thought this would be good. So she's really enjoying this. She does it with me and she's loving it. All right, next up, let's hop into the update for my 3rd grader and how everything went for her in February. So starting off with math, she is working her way through 3rd grade math with confidence. And this is going so well. She actually started division this month and she was a little nervous about it. And after our first lesson, she goes, that wasn't that bad. And I was like, see, I told you. I love the way they teach division in here. It's a really great way that they approach it. And so she is loving it. She said, I think math might be my favorite subject now. And I was like, heck yeah, that's awesome. So what we are doing though to continue to reinforce her multiplication facts are, if you saw, I think I talked about this in my January update, I've got a little index card here, but we are working our way through. I printed off these for free and laminated them. They are the Good and the Beautiful multiplication fact cards. So she's actually already mastered the first 3 sets and we are just working our way through the 4th set. But what I do, I have them in little like envelopes here. But what I do is I will have her just do this, work through some of these facts for 2 minutes as a warm up before her actual math lesson. And I even do the ones that she's mastered. I have her go back through these. So like, just because she mastered one set, it doesn't mean that we don't ever go back and touch it again, but I have her do a few of those in the mastered set. And then we work on the ones that we're continuing to work on. So I will say Math with Confidence does a fantastic job at conceptually teaching your child why 3 times 5 is 15, but at a certain point, in my opinion, rote memorization and doing flashcards and just getting it committed to memory is kind of necessary, especially as the students continue to move up into harder level math. Having those facts down pat and not having to think about, okay, 3 groups of 5, I think is just going to make their life a lot easier. So we are now committing all of these to memory. However, she did learn first the concepts behind the multiplication. So we'll do that once we, of course, get through all of her division facts. We will then move into some kind of flashcard situation with her too, so she can memorize her division facts. But this is going really well paired with the flashcards. 10 thumbs up. Everything's going great in math for us. Okay, just for warning, my other dog just came into this office and he's begging me. Can you see him off camera here? He just put his paw on my lap. He's like, play with me. Hey, buddy. Okay, so next up, let's talk about language arts for my oldest. So similar situation with her and her language arts. She really enjoyed Blossom and Root, level 3. We did the first book for them. It was Alice in Wonderland. So we did that for the first 4 weeks before Christmas break. And she really enjoyed it. Alice in Wonderland is a very peculiar book. I had never read it. I had watched the cartoon Disney movie when I was younger, but I had never actually read the classic itself. So this is a first for me as well. And yeah, it's a peculiar book. Let's just say that. But she loved it. So I was like, oh, perfect. But again, after the holidays, I came to that conclusion and I was doing some soul searching about what I wanted to do for language arts moving forward. And ultimately, I rested on the fact that I didn't want to continue with Blossom and Root for the way I wanted to teach language arts. So nothing wrong with Blossom and Root. I just wanted to go in a different direction in how we were implementing our language arts. And so we made the change as well. And I'm not gonna lie, both my kids were super pumped about it when I made the decision, because Emery loved Blossom and Root Language Arts level 2. She literally didn't want to do another program this year. She wanted to move into this level 3. So when I told her after Christmas we were going back into it, she was so excited. If you've been following my channel for a little bit, you know that she had been working her way through Timothy on the 10th floor before we even made the move over to this as her reader. And so when I told her that we were gonna actually do the program alongside this, she was just pumped, y'all. So with that, this has been a great change. Again, it has all the same things that level 1 includes. Not that she necessarily needs a ton of help with her phonics, but it is reinforcing phonics in here. She also loves the fact that the readers are companion readers, which means I read a portion, then she reads a portion. We kind of go back and forth, and each chapter is in reinforcing specific phonograms or types of words, like multisyllabic words or things like that. Whatever you're working on is reinforced in the chapters in here. So that's been amazing. Another thing that has gone super well is the fact that level 3 has its own separate spelling book practice. So level 2, the spelling is integrated into the course book. When you get to level 3, it is its full separate own book. Now this is meant to be a like a book this wide, but I doubled them up on one page for printing purposes because I use the free version. And so normally this would be a booklet like half this size. Here, let me show you. So for example, this would be on the front and this would be on the back of this. And so we just have it all on one page just to make printing make more sense. Dogs. Hey buddies, what's up? Sorry, my dogs are getting a little mouthy. I have a husky and then an Australian Shepherd. And so they're high energy and they're also kind of loud and they talk to each other a lot. So, and I try to keep them out of my office, but then they bust their way into my door. It's ridiculous. But her spelling's going really well with this. And that is something that I was struggling with. Like, how did I want to teach spelling? So I was so glad to find that this was working well for her when we made the switch. It kind of like, you know, checked all my boxes and, you know, it made it so I didn't have to find another spelling book. So this worked great for her. This switch over has been nothing but amazingness. Okay, I just had to kick my dogs out of the office. They are quite distracting, so apologies about that. Hopefully they don't bust their way back in here. Now, I will say for the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts for next school year, going into level 4, we are most likely not going to do that. For multiple reasons, but one is that they are doing an update to the levels, which is going to be a really good thing in my opinion. However, one of the changes they are making is they are moving spelling to online. And we're not a no screen family, but we try to reduce screens if we can. So we use them only when necessary and very intentionally. And for me, I think spelling is just one of those things that I don't want to do online if I don't have to. I'd prefer to do it on paper. But I will say for a lot of families, it's going to be a huge blessing because especially if you have more than one kid, being able to make something a little bit more independent, like spelling, being able to do that online will be huge. But for me, I don't want to do it. It's personal preference. Two, I am noticing there is an increase in religious content within the levels as they go up. And level 3 has more religion in it within the readers and the course book than level 2 did. And so from my understanding from other people who have done previous The Good and the Beautiful older levels, they said it does increase in content. So I think that's okay. I think we could work around it if we needed to. But there is another option that I'm planning to use for next year that doesn't have religion in it. It's secular, it's an all-in-one language arts. And it's one that I really wasn't considering before, but now with my newfound outlook on language arts, not having to be Charlotte Mason, it has now come back into my consideration, and we are gonna be moving forward with it for next year. So I think if this option wasn't available, I would have no problem moving to level 4, but I would have to do it with a lot of modifications, if that makes sense, because we are a secular family, well, at least in our homeschooling and stuff. So just a heads up, we are going to be doing another program that is not The Good and the Beautiful next year, but I'm not going to talk about that until I do my curriculum picks here in it should be about 2 weeks. So you guys won't have to wait much longer, but I'm going to save that for when I do my curriculum pick video. But I did want to mention that for a reason, and it's because we have included something else for my daughter for language arts to help support her writing so that she will be ready, I think, to move into this new language arts program that we're going to do next year. And what we have added as an additional supplement is from Evan Moore. It's called Write a Super Sentence, and it's for grades 1 through 3. And it just really helps with writing a really solid sentence, not just, a logistically sound sentence like I ate the cat or the rat. Sorry, I don't know why I always do cat ate the rat, but it's making a really strong sentence with adjectives and where did it happen and when, and really developing a really nice sentence. So this is going to help her with that. We've already done one lesson out of it, and it's only got 15 lessons in it, so we'll do 2 per week between now and the end of the school year. It'll be perfect. We'll finish up right before the school year ends, and I think this will give her a good foundation in how to write a really strong sentence, because the next program we're looking at will start with sentence writing, but it'll very quickly move into writing a paragraph, and I want to make sure she's able to write sound sentences before we start doing multiple sentences into a paragraph. So this is something we've added in. She loves it. My youngest is like, do I get to do that? I was like, maybe next year. So we have used Evan Moore products in the past and we've really enjoyed them, so I'm not shocked that this is going well for my youngest or for my oldest. All right, y'all, this is going to be a long video, I can already tell. Did you expect anything less from me? I apologize already, but I think you guys enjoy these, so hopefully it's not going to annoy you too much that this is getting long. Okay, last thing we're gonna talk about is group subjects. So we also made some big changes here, and it's been for the better. So let's talk about first morning subjects, or like what I would call enrichment. So I realized we really needed to simplify our morning time. We did. We had too many moving pieces, too many things that we wanted to do, and it was causing more of a stressor to us to get these things done than it was the benefit and the enjoyment of doing the thing, if that makes sense. And so we have actually dropped 3 things from our morning time subjects. The first is the Burgess Bird book. Now, this was a fan favorite of ours to start the school year. We actually made it halfway through, so we're around chapter 29, I think. Hold on. Nope, 23. I lied. 23, but we are about halfway through it. Now, I will say I was modeling this off of Ambleside Online Year 1, and they actually recommend reading 1 chapter every other week. And I kind of think I know why, because if you do 1 chapter a week, it becomes kind of redundant. So my girls loved this to start with. They were like, this is so fun. And they had a coloring page that they would color while I was reading them the book. And the stories were engaging to begin with. But then you start to realize after about the 10th story, they kind of model the same thing happens. Peter Rabbit goes talk to this new bird, and the bird tells him about his plumage and how he can hunt and where their nesting is. And it's not bad, but it's just when you're reading 1 chapter week after week, they kind of start to blend together. And then at a certain point, the girl's like, I don't remember which bird was which, because it just feels like it's the same thing every week. So I'm sad to say that we're dropping this, but I'm also like, I'm okay with it, honestly, because at the end of the day, we still read more chapters than we would have if we had followed the Ambleside Online Year 1 schedule, because they only read 18 chapters. So we made it more than they did. So I feel pretty accomplished in that respect. But yes, we are going to put this away. One thing I am considering bringing in for term 3, which is starting next week. So it just so happens that the end of February is also our last week of term 2. So for term 3, I was like, what if we bring in another type of nature reader, but it's a little different? So if you saw my haul video, you already know about these, but I went ahead and got from the No Eyes and No Eyes series, I went ahead and got Trees and Shrubs, as well as Plant Life in Field and Garden. These are both by Arabella Buckley. I got the PDF versions of these. I bound them myself because it's cheaper from Living Book Press. I think they've got really quality prints. I have some of their physical stuff. I also have, and it's got like real photos in it, which is like so pretty, and drawings as well. But they've got great quality physical books. I've got a ton over there, right there. But I also, depending on the book, will sometimes just buy the PDF because these are smaller and print them. It's way cheaper than me buying the physical book. But I'm thinking I might bring these in just for like fun to read on Fridays into our morning time. I haven't decided on that yet, but they are here ready to go if I want to read them. Another thing that we dropped is brushwork, because my kids watercolor like crazy people on their own time. So this was kind of feeling a little lackluster for them in our school, and if I'm going to be honest with you, it was hard for me to muster the energy to go get water, get the paints out, get the paper out, get the, draw the grids on the paper, all that stuff, when they were going to do this and then turn around and go paint a full scene. And they were, we have kept doing it? Yes. Is it more about how to hold your brush and the mechanics of like really good painting? Yes, but my kids paint so much in their free time. This kind of felt silly, if I'm being honest, and I needed to slim down somewhere. So I asked the girls, I was like, would you be terribly upset if we dropped brushwork? And they was like, no. They're like, that's fine. I was like, okay, great. We're going to drop it then. So I think this is a great program if you're trying to teach your child form and how to hold things and the way to make the proper, what do you call them? Brush strokes. But for us, with how much my kids do art, this kind of felt like taking a few steps back, if that makes sense. So we are gonna lay that to rest over here. Another one is American Girl, The Care and Keeping of You, Book 1. Partially because, again, just trying to slim things down, but two, a lot of the stuff we talk about on a day-to-day basis, a lot of it's about hygiene and things like that. And the stuff that I kind of would want them to really get out of this, they're just not really old enough yet. So it's not that this is going away forever. I'm just pausing this, and I think I'll bring it back in middle school, and maybe just do it with my oldest to begin with. And then when my youngest gets a little older, we'll do this again. I also have book number 2, which is for end of middle school, maybe even to high school. So these books aren't going anywhere. Right now, I'm not sure if this is the right time to bring it into our school, as well as I kind of needed to take something off our plate. So this was another one that I removed from our enrichment time. So with that, what are we doing for morning time? Super simple. Every day we start off with our calendar work, which you guys have seen those. I don't have them down here with me because I've been sharing them a lot in my recent videos, but I got the big monthly planners for them. They're doing their calendar work in there, and it's a little bit also their nature study. We're recording the lows and highs of the day, the sunset, sunrise. They're recording the weather for the day. They're drawing it into the box. And then they also use it as a book of first. So the first bird they saw, they put in there. The first snowstorm we had, they put in there. Next month, we're going to track the phases of the moon. We're going to use it for different things. So we do our morning calendar. That takes 5 minutes. Then after that, we read a poem from our poetry anthology book. And then after that, we do one of a few things. On Monday, we do artist study from Ambleside Online. Tuesday, we do a lesson of Spanish from Homeschool Languages Spanish 1 that we're loving. Wednesday, we will do our composer study from Ambleside Online. Thursday, we will do a second lesson of Spanish from Homeschool Languages. And then Friday, we will go ahead and do our folk song from Ambleside Online. And then alternate with also Harriet's, Harriet's Treasury for Kids? I think that's what it's called. It's from Ambleside Online Year 1. And we only have 3 more stories to read, so they get sprinkled throughout in the term. So if it's a week that we're reading that, we'll read that on Friday. Another thing we do on Fridays is during breakfast, the girls will watch a video from PBS Kids Salsa Spanish, and they love incorporating that in with our homeschool languages. So again, only other thing I might add into that schedule is maybe just read these whenever we have the time, if our schedule's not too crazy, or I might save these for summer even, I don't know. But I want to add these in at some point because I think they look like they're really good stories, and I think the illustrations and pictures are beautiful. So I don't know, we'll figure that out. But otherwise, it's pretty simple. It takes us all of maybe 20 minutes to do morning time, and then we roll into core subjects and then history and science. Okay, speaking of science, if you watched my last update, you guys know that we are switching gears this year and we are finishing out the year with unit studies. Specifically, we decided to do a unit from For the Love of Homeschooling, all about the boreal forest. It's the largest biome in the world. If you're interested to know, I did not know that until I started studying this with the girls. They are loving it, y'all. I'm going to do a whole review video on this. But this is going so well that they asked if we could do one more unit before the end of the year from For the Love of Homeschooling. Well, my original plan was I was going to do The Good and the Beautiful, Little Hearts and Hands, Wind and Waves. And I got the idea, actually, I think Nicole over at the Mindful Homeschooler and I were talking about this, and she suggested I check out the extreme weather unit from For the Love of Homeschool and pair it with just the wind portion from this book. So the first 15 lessons or so of this book are all about weather and wind, right? That's the wind and waves portion. So that's exactly what I've done. I've created a whole plan on how I'm going to combine these two, and it's going to work out perfectly because this is doing an introduction to overall weather, right? But this one is about extreme weather specifically. And so we'll kind of start with this, bring this in when we really get into the extreme weather stuff, and kind of end with this. But they both talk about what it's like to be a meteorologist, all that goodness. So the girls are really excited about this plan, and frankly, so am I. We have been loving this so much that I went ahead and got the girls science notebooks from School Nest. Again, if you saw my recent haul video, you probably have already seen these, but I got each of them a science notebook from School Nest. They got to pick it out. So my oldest picked out the powder blue, I think is this color, and then my youngest picked out the nature green one. She likes dinosaurs, and she said this reminded her of dinosaurs. I also said they could put nature stickers on here if they wanted to, because we collect random stickers all over the place, and so they thought that'd be fun to kind of put that all on there. But so what I've done is, so here's the cover of my oldest daughter's Boreal Forest notebook. So I printed another one off for her. I let her color it. And so they're just kind of, as we have random things that pop up, they're putting in narrations in here, drawings. They might paste in like one of the projects, the paper projects from the notebook that she has. Oh, this one we learned about forest fires, and one of the projects was to create a fire prevention poster, like what's his name, the bear. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking, but you guys know who I'm talking about. And he's like, only you can prevent forest fires. And so she did one, only you can fix this. And this is all fire going all over the place. But so we are loving that. And so what we'll do is we'll continue to add to this until we fill it up, and we'll get a new one. It might take a few years to fill up one notebook. It might take one, I don't know. But there's no hard or strong, fast rule about how we are going to use this, but rather just when the fancy strikes us, or if there's something we want to save, we can put it in here. And then when we start a new unit, I'm going to go ahead and paste the cover for her workbook from there in here. So it'll say, okay, this is when the new unit. So for the extreme weather, whatever her cover looks like, I'll paste it here. And then, you know, the next couple pages will be about extreme weather. Or I might have her do some narration notebooking from, you know, any of the lessons in here as well. So it doesn't have to just be the For Love of Homeschool units, you know, because we're going to be doing different units next year for science. Some of them are not For the Love of Homeschooling, so I'll still have them use their notebooks to put some narration notebooking or whatever they want to in there. Just whenever the inspiration hits them, they can put an entry in there. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to talk about history. So this week should have been our last week finishing up Addie's unit from the Little School of Smiths, learning all about the Civil War and what is included at that time, which is obviously a very huge lens on slavery. And I say it should have been our last week because it's a 4-week program and that's how we've been running the schedule. However, my girls are enthralled with Addie and her story and everything that entails. And this was actually the unit I was the most concerned about doing with them, just because it is such a sensitive subject and they are young learners, and I just was like nervous that it wasn't going to go over well, or they were going to get really upset, which they have gotten upset about some things, but not in a overly traumatic way, right? In a way that they really are empathetic in what it was like to be a slave back then. They were really feeling it. But with that being said, I say that it was the one I was the most worried about, but it's the one that has gone over the best. They are loving it. They are loving all the random library books I'm bringing in to help support the topics. There's a lot of great suggestions in the teacher guide for it. And so we've been really doing some rabbit trailing, I guess is what I would call it. And that's exactly what I want for my homeschool. Now, with that being said, we might not finish all of the American Girls then, because depending on how delayed this gets, we might have to cut Molly's unit. I don't know, because I don't want to bring it into next school year, and I do want to take a break for summer this year, so we'll see. But with that, I'm not gonna rush it. I am allowing us to take more time with it. And I say that we are taking longer, and I will talk more about this in my review video on Addie when we finish, but because the program actually has you only read 3 of the 6 books from the girls series, no matter which one you're reading. So for Addie, we were only meant to read Meet Addie, Addie Learns a Lesson, which we finished these. And then I think the other one was Addie Saves the Day, which is actually book 5. So you skip 3 and 4. And my girls, when I went to go read this, they were like, absolutely not. We have to read 3 and 4. We have to know what happens to her family because well, I don't know if I want to give a spoiler alert, but Addie and her family are slaves. When you get into the first book, they get separated at a point. Some make it to freedom, some don't. And so long story short, my kids are like, we cannot move on from this until we find out if they are all back together again. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. We can read the whole series. So we are actually reading all of them. So we have read Meet Addie, which is book 1. We've read Addie Learns a Lesson, that's book 2. We have read Addie's Surprise, which is the Christmas one, that's book 3. This is a good one at the end. It's happies. Book 4 we just finished. So next week I'm gonna try and get Addie Saves the Day as well as Changes for Addie complete. We'll see. So this might only go 1 more week longer than it should, but at most 2 weeks, because we're also bringing in some library books that I just picked up from the library next week, and I just don't want to rush it. The girls are really enjoying the topic, and I just kind of want to lean into that. So we might get off on our schedule is the only thing. And like I said, I really want to try and get Molly's unit done because I do want them to learn about World War II. So cross your fingers. We might be doing school this summer. It's fine. It's fine. It's all in the sake of learning and my children having fun, right? That's the important part. But I'll go deeper into that when I do Addie's review video. I don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be. If you guys have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, leave them down in the comments. I hope it was super helpful for you guys to see what's been going on in our homeschool. Like I said, a lot of big changes, y'all. Physically, literally, furniture, curriculum changes, curriculum additions. We nixed some stuff. This year has been a very eye-opening year. I will talk about this more towards the end of the year when I do a whole year in review video, but I feel like I've really found what I want to do, and I'm feeling at peace now moving forward with how I want our homeschool to operate, what I want to bring in, what I don't want to bring in, how I want to structure things. I'm really feeling good about it now moving forward. So if you have any questions, like I said, let me know. But if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for all things homeschooling moving forward. Also, like I said, I'm going to be giving out my curriculum picks here in about 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.